the chop and fuga fuga. Wanna money, ah money, Africa money, oga the chop and fuga fuga. Ide chop and nyanga nyanga, oga the chop and nyafu nyafu, nyafu nyafu. Wa wa wa, oga the chop and nya. Ide chop and fuga fuga, oga the chop and nyanga nyanga, nyanga nyanga. Boom boom boom, oga the chop and wa. Money, Africa money, oga the chop and mo. Woman they way, rich they enjoy. I say how we go bridge yo. The gap between account and the job. Oga the chop and fuga fuga. Back manager the job. Oga the chop and pasa pasa. Director the job. Oga the chop and nyanga nyanga. Even pastors they chop 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 chop. Hey, l'argent, j'ai bien cherché, mais j'ai rien gagné. Le champ politique a-tu buffé? Oh 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 oh. Oga the chop and fuga fuga. Oh 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 oh. Oga the chop and pasa pasa. Eh oh oh eh oh oh. Oga the chop and nyanga nyanga. Eh oh oh eh oh oh. Wanna money ah money Africa money Oga the chop and fuga fuga. Wanna money ah money Africa money.
All right, so we'll get into Corruption Watch shortly, but you can get 50 gigabytes of data free whenever you buy a Surfline device at any Surfline shop or retail outlet today. Surfline Ghana's premier 4G LTE network puts the whole world in your hands. And this 50 gigabyte offer gives you enough data to power your digital lifestyle for schoolwork, virtual team meetings, all your streaming services, as well as sharing fun moments with family and friends. And our bundle offering gives you the flexibility to choose between no expiry or never running out data. So whether it's internet for your whole family, your school, your office, or yourself, Ghana's only true 4G network has got you covered with this 50 gigabyte offer. Walk into any of our shops or retail outlets in Accra, Tema, Takrady to buy a device and redeem 50 gigabytes of internet instantly for free. Surfline, it's about time. But your neighborhood, your favorite neighborhood store, Spar or Citidia Market, is at it once again. Now, something crazy is about to happen ahead of Christmas. Yes, it's a crazy discount day at Spar or Citidia Supermarket this coming Saturday. Nothing gets better than a 30% discount on your Christmas shopping. Now, be reminded this offer is just for this coming Saturday and only this coming Saturday. So don't be left out. A whopping 30% discount on a purchase of 300 Ghana cedis or more. And that sounds unbelievable, isn't it? Well, just spend 300 Ghana cedis or more this Saturday at any Spar or Citidia Supermarket branch in Accra, Dawenya or Chebi and get 30% discount. Note though that offer is not available on items already on promotion. Talk to a sales assistant for clarity. Be reminded that Citidia Supermarket is now Spar Market. Spar, my market. Terms and conditions apply. But don't be left out in the 12 days of Kadmas promo. Your contactless Absa vertical cards will put the smiles of the festive season in your home. Make sure you're at Amelana, that's a wager, to shop with your contactless Absa vertical cards to enjoy special vouchers from Absa. More amazing rewards await you. That's Africanacity, that's Absa. Terms and condition apply.
Africa money, oga the chop and fuga fuga. Wanna money, ah money, Africa money, oga the chop and fuga fuga. Ide chop and nyanga nyanga, oga the chop and nyafu nyafu, nyafu nyafu. Wa wa wa, oga the chop and nya.
So on Corruption Watch this morning, we'll be doing a total recall. Now, we're putting the year 2020 into perspective. We'll relive some of the top cases that, we run and their impacts. We'll talk about, a Japa deal, the special prosecutor, the Zongo Development Fund, procurement scandal, vote buying in MPP parliamentary primaries, and so on. And you bet we have the man and woman to do justice to the issues. Dr. Kojo Pumpuni Asante, who's wearing his cap as Project Manager of Corruption Watch, and Mrs. Linda Ofori-Kwafo is Executive Director of the Ghana Integrity Initiative, and one of the project partners will assist us look ahead to the year 2021, particularly projecting how the outcome of the December 7, 2020 elections could affect the fight against corruption in the coming year. In addition, recently, Corruption Watch received a letter from Justice Cynthia Pamela Adu, that's the Judicial Secretary, at the behest of the Judicial Council of Ghana. And what was the content of that letter? We will tell you. Stay tuned. But you know, Corruption Watch is sponsored by Danida in collaboration with our partners, Center for Democratic Development, Ghana, CDD, Ghana Integrity Initiative, GII, Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition, GACC, and Africa Center for International Law and Accountability. That's ASILA, and multimedia platforms Joy FM and Adum FM. On social media, that's Facebook, our handles are Corruption Watch Ghana, Twitter is Corruption Watch or CW Ghana, Instagram Corruption Watch _GH, YouTube Corruption Watch Ghana, and our website is corruptionwatchghana.org, and our hotline is 055 22 and our WhatsApp number is 055 22 or 055 453 6295, and the hashtag is Wanamoni or Ghana Abe. And Corruption Watch has 6 segments, but on this episode, we're not featuring a particular segment because today we have a mix of several segments. Look, on today's show, we assess our efforts at fighting corruption in 2020 and look ahead to the year 2021. Distinguished experts are, currently we have Mrs. Lindo Forikwafu, who's Executive Director of Ghana Integrity Initiative, who's joined us in studio. The Project Manager of Corruption Watch, Dr. Kojo Pumpuni Asante, will be joining us shortly. Also today, we bring you a unique show in the sense that we're doing a total recall of Corruption Watch on Joy for 2020. This is our way of accounting to you, our cherished listener, and reminding those abusing the public purse that our leaders, our lenses are on them. And I'm going to be engaging with Corruption Watch journalist Frederick Esiama intermittently on the show later. We'll also discuss the content of that letter that Corruption Watch has received from Justice Cynthia Pamela Addo, the Judicial Secretary, at the behest of the Judicial Council. Well, in the meantime, what were the best and worst moments of our fight against corruption in Ghana in the year 2020? What lessons shall we learn from our experience in 2020, and what can we do differently in 2021 to advance the fight against corruption? 2 weeks ago, when we had the last Corruption Watch show, we discussed how one of the forms of corruption, incumbency abuse, was going to affect the elections. Well, ironically, today, we'll be discussing how the outcome of the elections will affect the fight against corruption in the year 2021. This is because of the outcome of the parliamentary elections. Without wasting time, let me go straight to our guest for today, Linda Oforikwafu. Good morning again.
Good morning.
And how are you doing?
By God's grace, I'm doing well.
Great. So let's get into it. And I have a very simple question for you that would set the tone for the conversation. Now, is to name one moment in 2020 when you felt that this country was on the right track in the fight against corruption. Then one other moment when you felt disappointed with this country's approach to fighting corruption.
Okay, so well, when it comes to, it's a difficult question. It appears simple, but not. I would want to look at civil society vigilance and the roles that we have played in this year. Obviously, 2020 has been a difficult year, and it has actually also have its own impact on the fight against corruption some way, somehow. But then, in terms of how society organizations and individuals have actually stood out to defend certain actions by state institutions, and I can make mention of the audit service work, is commendable. And I think if we continue going that way, we might get the results that we are looking for. In terms of moments that really shocked me, I think that the contract for sale really came as a big surprise, even though we know how corruption manifests in several ways and so in our institutions. I was shocked.
Why were you shocked knowing how corruption manifests?
Okay, so then when we have very important institutions like the Public Procurement Authority, knowing very well that about 70% of government's resources goes into procurement, procuring goods and services and all that, you will only expect that the persons put in place to be able to handle such matters would do it with all the expertise, the goodwill, the competence, the commitment that it requires. So then for us to find the head of such a very big organization in the kind of revelations that came up in the contract for sale documentary, and also for SRAJ to continue to do the investigation to the matter and come out with the recommendation that they did, obviously I was surprised because I was not expecting such personality to be involved in such matters. So that's where my biggest surprise came from.
Okay.
The other one is when one of the most committed, in my view, persons to the fight against corruption, handling very important issue as the auditing the state institutions and public institutions and all that, was asked to proceed on 69 days or so leave. I know the case is in court, so I wouldn't want to go into it again, but I was very surprised that if persons who have shown commitment and they are very bold and doing their work without fear or favor could suffer such whatever happened to Daniel, then I think it was quite unfortunate. And I was like, is there any need for someone to actually be committed to the fight against corruption at all? So these two incidents really shocked me, and the fact that society was able to put ourselves together and defend the right things and actually demand from government. We actually, I can say we're tough on government, and we really demanded that government should do the right things. We did not get the result that we are looking for, but luckily we are in courts now, and we're hoping the judiciary will do.
So when you say, I mean, when you talk about the Auditor General's case, for instance, you say you were shocked and you ask, can we really win the fight against corruption? Let me ask you, your assessment of the executive, for instance, your assessment of our fight against corruption in 2020.
I would say that when it comes to the fight, we have various stakeholders involved. And sometimes it's quite unfortunate, or it's not be proper for you to only single out a particular stakeholder or institution, because sometimes their work, they work in such a collaborative manner that everybody's role is equally important. When you look at the matters that came up in relation to the special prosecutor, for instance, get to know the extent to which the executive had committed resources, some way, somehow, to the fight against corruption. If you look at the NACAP, one of the things that we require from, that's the National Anti-Corruption Action Plan, we require from the executives to make sure the anti-corruption institutions have the necessary resources to be able to do their work and do it very well. So then I think SHRAJ will even confirm to the fact that their resources increased a bit, and then the OSP also received some amount of money. Whether we were able to use it or not is another subject for another day. But then obviously some transfers and some allocations were made. So the commitment that the executive might have shown to making sure the resources are available, financial resources I mean, is something worth commending. Then if you look at the other state institutions themselves and even their role in fighting corruption, so the judiciary, the executive, and whatever roles they might have played at different times is equally important. The media, I think it's worth commending that we have personalities involved, and I can actually mention Manasseh and other people who stood out because their work somehow have been rewarded by the awards that they have received during the period. And also, I think they did very well. And even citizens. I work with the Ghana Integrity Initiative, and we have what we call the Advocacy and Legal Advice Center, where we receive cases and complaints from citizens on corruption. I have to tell you that citizens are really playing good roles.
So now that you've talked about the roles that everybody's played, you've talked about the judiciary, the legislature, so and what stood out, how about what didn't stand out? So who performed poorly? Yeah, I mean, I like the look on your face. So it means you're not expecting this. Let's go ahead. Yes, who performed poorly?
Dr. Kojak can actually answer that question.
He's not here at the moment. He's not here at the moment, but since you are here,
Okay, so now we do advocacy, and we base on advocacy on scientific. If I've done some assessment of a sort, I would have been able to say that, but I have not. So then it's quite difficult for me to mention a particular stakeholder that did not perform well. But obviously, I'll look at two that's a difficult one. You want to get a news item from me this afternoon?
Oh, no.
It's quite a difficult question, I must say.
Yeah.
For everybody has done well, but then citizens will expect more from their governments, I must say, because some stakeholders have resources, capacity, and they should show commitment to doing more than others. So obviously, if citizens are reporting corruption, they cannot investigate corruption. So then if at the end of the day, if 2021, I launched Corruption Perception Index, and then Ghana did well, you will praise who? The government, right?
Yeah.
So Ghana does not do well too. We would be able to say that the government has
So the
more to
government
do.
has more to do.
Yes, the government has more to do. I'll leave it
In
at that.
totality, what's your assessment of our fight against corruption?
Oh, I think we have to do more. We don't have any magic wand to be able to do this. Actually, it has to follow. We having the right institutions with the right resources, both human and financial, having people showing commitment, leadership showing commitment, and then so we have what it is. But then we are still lacking because maybe a commitment in this whole business. And I will not only point fingers at government, but then all the stakeholders have a role to play. And so the moment we slack, one stakeholder is not performing as it should, then obviously we're not going to get the result that we are looking for. I think we should be able to do more. Because in other jurisdictions, they are also just using legislation, institutions, whatever, but they are able to achieve the
Talking
result that
about
they-
doing more, and it's something we've been talking about all this while. Every year we say we have to do more, we have to do more. What more has to be done? Is it a case of the usual every year, let's do more? It looks like we're always talking about doing more, and we don't see lots of changes.
I
in
will
that.
always make reference to some few years back when we were trying to do an assessment of an implementation of the United Nations Convention Against Corruption. And I was fortunate to be on the team that was working with the SHRAJ and other stakeholders in doing this exercise. And we got to know that when it comes to sanctioning the corrupt, we are not performing well. And to date, I would say we are not performing well. So then we put in place the right institutions to be able to do that. And we all know the challenges that the Special Prosecutor's Office had gone through till now. We would not see many cases being dealt with at the judicial level. And so obviously we have not been able to perform as is expected. I always say that COVID-19 has its own implication and its negative impact on everything, including the fight against corruption. So then, if I say we have to do more, I'm looking forward to a period or where we will be able to do effective investigations resulting in effective sanctioning, the right sanctioning of the corrupt, and most importantly, being able to recover some stolen wealth for the nation. I always look forward to that day where we'll be able to
Right,
recover stolen wealth
great.
for the
So
state.
let's continue. And here, you've talked about some of the things, measures that we put in place. And I realized that, this year also, we had the first special prosecutor. Mind you, in 2018, we swore Martin Amidu into office as the first special prosecutor. And then in November, he decides to resign. Now, what do you make of this whole episode? Well, let me also say good morning to Dr. Kojo Pumpuni Asante, who is the project manager of Corruption Watch.
Good morning.
Dr.
Good morning,
Asante.
Winston. Good morning to your listeners.
I hope you're doing very well.
Yes.
Linda was waiting for you to come and answer a certain question. But she's answered, so I'm sure we can move on.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Now that she's answered the
He's
question.
going to answer all the OSP questions.
Yes, I'm getting to the OSP questions because you're also the chair, of the board. So, what do you make of all of this? I mean, this whole episode, the special prosecutor resigns from office. Linda.
Okay, so then no one expected that to happen, and we're not looking forward to having the head of such an important organization resigning at the time that he did. But he has the right to do so, so he did. And the appointing authority rightly also accepted the resignation. So then it actually takes us back to sort of not starting all over again, but then getting another head that will be willing to take it up and then committed to ensure that we've been able to sanction and punish corruption as is expected and as the law actually requires us to do as a nation. So then he has the right to resign. He has resigned, but it was quite unfortunate. It was not expected. I was not looking forward to something of that nature. But it did happen, but we have to move on. So then.
Okay. I mean, did he at any point in time, complain to the board of things that were happening to him?
Oh, obviously, I wouldn't sit anywhere and say that we didn't know some of the things that were captured in the letter of resignation and some of the issues that came up also in government's response. The board had knowledge of some of them. The ones that were quite new was the ones in relation to Ejapa investigations and all that. But so if you put that one aside, most of the issues in relation to getting the right office accommodation and getting the staff members that he required to work with and some of the challenges he was even having with people on secondments
Okay.
were known to the board.
So let's look at the accommodation bid, for instance. But before that, let me just get your thoughts on this also, Dr. Kuja Sante. I mean, what you make of Martin Amidu's resignation before I get to Linda on the accommodation issues and the other ones.
I mean, we all celebrated the appointment of Martin Amidu because prior to that, his public pronouncements on corruption and so on, some of his actions that he had taken to the Woyome matter, I think gave everybody confidence that this was the right person for an institution that was set up purposely to deal with corruption related to politically exposed persons. It has been a challenge for us to deal with that. You know, often the Attorney General, who's part of cabinet, is put in a position where they have to basically investigate and prosecute their own colleagues, and it seems like no Attorney General has had the courage to be able to do that. So this was a way to deal with that problem. I think the verdict is still out as to whether this will be the mechanism or whether maybe just the leadership is what would make it work. But I think at the back of that, it was a disappointment for the way it ended.
Okay.
In terms of Mr. Martin Amidu tendering his resignation, I really thought he should have continued. I think once he had raised the issues that he felt he was getting, or he read the president's actions as interference, he should have just ignored it, go ahead and do the follow-up investigation that he wanted to do. Because I think that is what you are going to get in this job.
Okay.
Anybody that comes after him will be faced. There's no... I don't think it is set up in a way to say that you won't get interference. Actually, that is what you are going to get. If you look at prosecutors all across the world, in many places, Kenya, you hear it all the time, South Africa, whoever it is, you are going to sometimes get pushback from the executive, the people that you are going to investigate.
Okay.
So we expect that
So corruption would always fight you.
Oh yeah, I mean, because these are there's a lot at stake for a lot of people. In most cases, some people are going to jail.
Okay.
If you get to that conclusion. So I expect that anybody that comes after him, this is not the last time we are going to hear about executive interference.
They always would try.
What we expect is that that prosecutor would still force ahead, let the public support that person, and so that they can still deliver their mandate.
Okay, so Linda, let me get back to you. And since you are the board chair, issues were raised about accommodation, which you've talked about. You said you knew. Now, just by way of clarification, Linda, so these matters that he talked about, particularly on the issue of accommodation, I'm sure it came to your notice and you would have wanted to help. Now, sitting here and looking back, what should you have done differently?
Okay, so then the office is quite new, and obviously it will have some challenges, and so these were some that came up because it was not like SHRAG that has been existing for so long. It's not like this, and so trying to set up an office properly, so-called, and also dealing with the issues of fighting corruption itself, so then was quite challenging. So we had Martin Amidu, Honorable Martin Amidu himself, playing key roles so far as these things are concerned. So he's contributing a lot in establishing an OSP office, and also trying to deal with some corruption matters that have been brought to his attention. So then he and the office had that responsibility. So then it was, for me, it was quite a big responsibility that he had on his hand. We didn't have anybody we didn't have enough people in-house there to actually commit that responsibility to. So then you concentrate only on the establishment of the office, getting the right people, getting the HR stuff done, and we didn't have that role quite rightly separated. And if there is anything that we could have done differently, I was thinking from the onset, the board should have been more interested in ensuring that clear division was established. Unfortunately, so we had, when you listen to Honorable Martin Amidu, you get to know that he's writing to follow up on this, he's doing this, because the board actually didn't want to interfere in some of these things. If you look at the law critically, one of the achievements that we actually had with the law is trying to ensure that its independence was such that he's so much independent from the board being interested in policy-related matters, and he handling this. So we also tried to allow him to lead on a number of things, because so that we wouldn't appear to be interfering so far as this work is concerned. But then looking back, I think we should from the onset have separated those two roles, establishing the office of the SP and allowing him, as Kojo rightly mentioned, some of the cases that he has followed in the past and actually taken to court on those matters. He has speciality in those areas, but combining both was quite a difficult task for him.
I need to add that one of the design innovations that we had in this law, and because it's coming from history and experience with public institutions, that often the head ends up doing too much administrative work and is not able to focus on the more substantive issue of prosecutions. But you cannot separate the two so cleanly, because the performance of the office can impact on the independence of the office. So we made a deliberate effort to set up a position for administrator, secretary.
Yes, for the
A secretary.
secretariat,
And the idea of the secretary was that that person was going to be the administrative head. Now, of course, it would have been better if that person was empowered to work on setting up the office, whilst the special prosecutor could, because the expectation was already high. As soon as the person got into office, people expected that cases should be going to court. So to even try to manage the public expectation, you needed somebody else to be doing the day-to-day, and it's a lot of work. I mean, everything from setting up a procurement entity committee, setting up, there are so many things you have to do to make it compliant with the public services roles, that requirements that are needed for any or agency of that sort. So I think that position still need to be activated even going forward, because whoever comes should not be burdened with the additional processes of administration and so on.
So could you, I think you've come back then to the same point I was trying to make.
Yeah.
I was not looking at a clear separation of a sort, but then somebody playing that key responsibility and then allowing Honorable Martin Amidu to take up the other matters. But that's what we didn't really
That's what you didn't do, and you felt you
we
you should
didn't
have
do
done.
well. I didn't say we didn't do
You said you didn't do well in that, so you felt you should have done that well.
Better.
Okay. So let's move on. And could you let me get to you about the PPA? I mean,
Yes.
Linda, I talked about the contract was one of the
Yeah.
things that happened
Yeah.
this year is Shraj releasing its report recommending that he be sacked from office and banned from holding public office for 5 years. Now, some have said it's too short. I mean, 5 years from holding public office is too short. But what's your assessment, or what's your take on all this episode and how the government reacted to it?
I mean, Linda was talking about the worst moments and some of the
Yeah.
good moments. I mean, definitely the PPA one was worse for me. I think it was perverse, It's just the whole idea that the person, it's almost like you give fish to a cat, to hold, to keep for you. Unfortunately, in this case, we thought that the cat may have been a dog or some other person who doesn't like fish. but this is, it turned out that the person actually is a cat who was wearing
The
something
person
else.
is looking for a fish already.
So it was really perverse that we have put a regulatory. This is the regulator of the public procurement, process, and the person sets up a scheme, basically to corrupt the system. It was too perverse for me. Another perverse one was the excavators one. When people who have been entrusted, I mean, the impact of illegal small-scale mining, Galamsey, on water bodies, our environment. I mean, we haven't even calculated the distraction that it will cause, for now and then into the future. People who have been entrusted, both in the Charles Bisu case and later on in this excavators missing and all of those things, turn around to turn it into some booty grabbing, spoiling, spoils, scheme. And I'm like, how can some Ghanaians be that wicked?
Okay.
So it really tells you that sometimes people don't have restraint. They would rationalize it and justify it because they are able to do it.
Okay.
And they just see it as another opportunity. So there's something about where corruption has reached. I've said this several times that I feel is normalized. And what is getting worse is that our people are becoming too used to it. They expect it. So they do it even in the open. They ask you, they extort money from you in the open. And they don't feel like anybody will hold them accountable.
Okay.
What it still remains, though, is an existential threat to everything that we are trying to build, our state, our democracy, our economy. And the quicker, for some of us, the quicker we come back to a position where it is important on the agenda and we put the resources to try to curb it, I think we really have to have a conversation as Ghanaians around this.
Okay. Let me get to Glenda. You've talked about this already, but let me get to you about the failings of 2020 and how that should help us going into 2021.
I think we have a lot to learn from what has happened with the cases Kojo has just mentioned, and even the OSP issue, the Auditor General issue and all that. We need to really learn and know how we actually move on if we are really interested in getting some results as far as the fight against corruption is concerned. And for me, I like the way the elections have actually turned out. And it's quite going to be difficult with the kind of parliament that we're going to have. And we all know the rules that parliament has in checking the executive. So you look at the 1992 Constitution and the laid out procedures when it comes to separation of powers and its related check and balances that is required for institutions to work. I've checked, and I'm yet to find out in any African country where they have experienced a hung parliament of a sort before.
Okay.
And I've not found. Maybe they found some yet, so they can share with me. I'm still searching. But they happen in other jurisdictions, so we can learn from them. And I'm taking it from that angle because when it comes to the work of the executive, to a very large extent, they have the responsibility of controlling our resources and telling us how our money should be spent. So then if we have a parliament that is divided in the way it is, that is actually no one has an absolute majority of a sort, then there will be much control. So then we are not going to complain about the budgets just being approved, the executive just having its way and all those things happening. So I'm looking forward to how from that level we'll be able already talking about when it comes to governments wanting to put some figure or approve some figure for anti-corruption work, for instance, and how they will be able to debate some of these matters without going on the lines of their usual political party, whatever.
Great. So let me get you, Dr. Asante. How will the outcome of the election, particularly the parliamentary election, impact the fight against corruption?
I can tell you that in the last couple of days, I've still reflected. And I keep an open mind because we have had several agreements or transactions that have passed through Parliament with both sides concurring that have turned out to not have value for money. That in many cases, shows, elements of conflict of interest and, self-dealing and all kinds of things. So I'm not holding my breath immediately that a more closer Parliament would deliver for us, more transparency, more oversight. They can easily collude and continue to do what they have done in the past. So I actually I really want to see Democrats, patriots, stand up, among the political class. If indeed they are taking the signals, my own good Professor Jima says that the outcome is a yellow card for all of us, that we have to reflect on the quality of our governance in a very, very deep way, because there is obvious frustration out there about what our political arrangements are able to deliver for us in terms of our development. And Parliament has a big role to play. So all the new members and old members of Parliament that are going to be installed, come December 7th, they need to ask themselves some very fundamental questions about who they represent and why they decided to go and stand as parliamentarians. Okay. But I don't think it's a given. Civil society, the media, who now seem to be the only bulwark against some of these actions, have to insist that the mandate that delivered on December 7th is a mandate about transparency and accountability, about development. And we want to see every politician who is claiming that that is what they represent actually do that from every day when they go to work. So we will not just sit with our hands hoping that just the makeup of Parliament will deliver it. We have to keep advocating, we have to keep engaging, but we also educate our citizens to understand that they cannot have it both ways. Citizenship means a lot, so they can't wait that now they have had the election, they are going to wait for another 4 years before they have another say. By that time, there might be no country. So every day, they should hold their MPs accountable for what they have asked them to do.
So every day, hold your MPs accountable. This is Corruption Watch on the Super Morning Show on Joy 99.7 FM. Stay with us. We'll be right back after these few messages from our partners.
What would you do if you have the choice to do anything in life? Build your dream house, take very good care of your family, and plan for a comfortable retirement. Plan a befitting funeral for your loved ones when they depart. How would you live if you knew there was a friend waiting to support you on all of your life's choices?
You have such a friend in Glyco Life Insurance. Glyco Life has all the plans to meet your life's needs: your child's education, your life savings, your mortgage, funerals, redundancy, and your retirement, and takes the burden off your shoulders. So go ahead and live life to the fullest today with Glyco Life Insurance plans. And remember that all our policies are hedged against inflation. Talk to Glyco Life on 0302 218 500 or 246 142. Also visit our website at www.glycolife.com or any of our branches nationwide for more information.
Glycolife, we cushion you for life.
Glyco, we cushion you for life.
There are far too many motorcycle accidents in Ghana. People are dying every day because we don't obey the rules. As a rider, you must wear your helmet at all times. So must your pillion rider. No exceptions. And please listen to me carefully. The traffic lights apply to you too. Stop at the signal and stay alive. The National Road Safety Authority wants us all to look out for ourselves, protect each other, and arrive alive. Thank you.
Your family needs you alive. Everyone needs you alive. Arrive alive.
Joy wishes you a joyous Christmas.
Accidents do happen. It could be a motor accident, a sudden heart attack, or even a stroke, or any other health emergency. The first steps you take are very critical. Should you be involved in or witness an accident, call 112 for the fastest ambulance response. With over 300 well-equipped ambulances all over Ghana, you are assured of the fastest response to your emergency calls. Call 112 during critical health emergencies and save your life and that of your family and loved ones. 112, help will come. 112, we are safe. Avoid prank calls as they can lead to loss of life of persons in actual need of help. Be a responsible citizen.
If nobody will give you anything this Christmas, cry. Samsung dare your back. Hey, deal penny. Every Samsung shop you enter, whether you are in the north or in the south, we are giving you free gifts with every Samsung device you buy. Tina Hoji and Kasa. Buy any Samsung mobile phone. That one alone be too much flex. Then in addition, you will get gifts ranging from free screen repair vouchers, wireless chargers, battery packs, phone covers, screen protectors, t-shirts, and many, many more. Papa bring yourself the trust. Come on, it's like Samsung they sponsored the bringer this year. You know they see, make you know slack cry. Terms and conditions apply.
Joy 99.7 FM.
Our money, when I'm money, our money, when I'm money, our money, when I'm money, our money, when I'm money.
Coffee in your cup and joy on the set. The Super Morning Show is always the best bet on Joy 99.7 FM.
C'est moi, you. Sit me back again. Yeah. Now no get it back. What you say now? Squad alongside man and
Joy 99.7 FM.
Our money, Africa money, I got the chop and fuga. Wanna money, our money,
Joy 99.7 FM. Coffee in your cup and joy on the set. The Super Morning Show is always the best bet on Joy 99.7 FM.
Right, so welcome back and thank you very much for staying with us. This is the Super Morning Show and we're, discussing issues of corruption on Corruption Watch. And today I have, the project manager of Corruption Watch, that's Dr. Kojo Pumpuni Asante, and Lindo Forikwafo, who is the executive director of Ghana Integrity Initiative. So, yes, we've talked about, how the parliamentary elections and all the dynamics and how it could influence corruption. But let's get to you directly, Kojo, because you've talked about, what Ghanaians need to do. We need to make sure that every day we go about talking about corruption. But let's talk about Corruption Watch. Now, this is a year in which many civil society and media actors came under lots of criticism and attack, particularly by, some agents of government. Now, what was the experience at Corruption Watch? You are the project manager.
As for attacks, I mean, this is I've been at CDD for 16 years, so I think I'm more used to attacks. I think the philosophy that all our partners, ourselves, CDD Ghana, GII, Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition, and ASILA, and so on, we try to inform all our work from the basis of research, analysis, so that we are not just, somebody would say, just making noise. That whatever we say is informed. Also because we are aiming to reform the system, to be constructive, to be able to move the country to a certain, endpoint. So when anybody attacks, at the end, you still have to speak to the investigation. You still have to speak to the information that is being put out. You can say whatever about the individuals and so on and so forth, but you can't run away from the investigation that have been put out. That was the experience with the party primaries and the vote buying issue during the MPP primaries. It's the same issue we've had to deal with, whether it's the Zongo Development Fund or any of the cases that we did. At the end, even when people have taken us to court, at the end you have to address the set of facts that have been put out. And I like to thank our investigators, our journalists that we work with during this year. They've been with us since 2017 and they've been fantastic. Our technical team, William Nyako and those who helped us, our partners who have been strong advocates, and also our supporters, since this year, Danida. So it's not an easy. I mean, this is not a.
How have those attacks affected you? I mean, the attacks that you receive. How they affected your commitment and motivation?
It's not easy. I think sometimes you wonder, why are you wasting your time? But I always reflect on it in two ways. I ask myself, what will happen if we stop doing this? All right. I mean, who would do it? Because you know the other side of the coin. If corruption becomes completely out of hand, so pervasive that, just ordinary citizens cannot get even public services or things that would improve their welfare if they don't pay some money.
Okay.
I mean, that is the end point. So when you think about it, it's okay. It is still worth it for us to continue to do the work. But then also we try to say, well, if it's what we do that at least offers some restraint, because if we didn't, it would even be worse. So it is always sometimes very difficult to measure how successful you are, but you have to persuade and convince yourself that you still make a contribution. At least you are still able to get some Ghanaians to sit around and say, how can we make our public procurement more fairer and promote public value for money and all of those things? How can we ensure that people work with integrity in the public services? Because that's the only way we can build the kind of vision we have for this country. All the things that the political class talk about, we can only do that if we have less corruption. So that's the motivation. And we are grateful that we get supporters. We can sit with friends, collaborators like Joy, Adom, and so on. Many of you activists, media, that also care about this subject. Because sometimes you feel very alone. And you are wondering whether you are just wasting your time. I mean, Linda has been in the trenches probably longer than I have been. And it's sometimes very, very difficult. But I think that in all of it, the more you can get partners that also speak the same language and are committed in the same way, you get some encouragement and motivation to continue.
Great. So I know that you and Linda would have to leave us and go and attend to other equally important assignments. So Linda, I'll give you the final word in your closing comments or closing remarks.
So I think for me, I'm more optimistic than Kojo sounded in some few minutes ago.
Well, I'm always less optimistic.
Because I think civil society work in the past year and previous years, the collaboration and the vigilance is still quite key, especially in these times that we are in. For the next 4 years, we have to be ourselves, be checking the political class, as you rightly mentioned. So we will not sit down for any kind of collusions to happen in Parliament without us talking. Then also talking about the threats and whatever, and could you, if it's virtual and it's verbal, it's okay, we can actually deal with it. But when it gets physical and that close, yesterday my office was broken in, and I don't know what else could be. I don't have any, I'm not engaged in any kind of business deals that require people breaking into my office and me myself being the target.
Did they pick anything?
Well, I think they got a phone, but then they actually ransacked my office and opened the files and all those things just yesterday.
Did they leave any notes there?
They didn't, and thankfully the police CID came and took some. They had investigators and the crime scene people coming, and today I know BNN will come and do a soup of a sort.
Any arrests made so far?
No, I'm yet to hear of any. So then we want to tell the people that, as Kojo rightly said, we've been in this business for quite a long time. So it can actually threaten us from a distance. When you get close, it's quite frightening, but we'll still continue this journey.
So this breaking into your office, finally on this, what time yesterday did it happen?
It happened, so then not in the morning, so I got to know in the morning. We were told, we got to the office yesterday morning and realized that.
So that means it was done on Monday night?
Yes, Monday night.
Or Tuesday dawn?
Yes, and I would say that nothing, there were laptops, there were desktops, and lots of things that anybody, if it was a thief or a criminal, could have actually taken away. But then, obviously, they were looking for, as my son would say, the lender of Orikwafo. So, thank God I'm here. And thank God for the protection we've received so far. And we want to tell the people that we are not benefiting anyway. Could you rightly say, sometimes we feel like walking away. But if we should go, can you imagine a Ghana without society organization holding our government to account? that will continue for the next 4 years. We look forward to having, ensuring that the check and balances that the political class need is provided.
Kojo, finally.
Oh, well, I mean, I think it's going to be a challenging couple of years. We have to remember that we are getting into a post-COVID period. COVID basically dominated our lives all of this year. The economy is not, it's going to take a while to recover. The government will find it very difficult to finance a lot of development, demands, and there's going to be a lot of demand from the citizens. So I think both of us, the media and civil society, we have to manage expectations. But if you are asking somebody to tighten their belt, then you also have to tighten your belt.
Sure.
V8s and all these things that annoyed us the whole of this year, the people have to put a stop to that. It doesn't signal, responsibility and the sensitivity that government needs to bring the people along with them. So there are just these little things, these everyday governance issues that we have to change our ways, in 2021. We will still do our national duty. We are not alarmist or, just trying to create any challenges. We just want to be able to, get this country to progress consistently at the end for people to benefit. So that's my message. I really think that we should brace ourselves for a difficult period in 2021 and ongoing. And all we have to do is just to be constructive, to make our contribution to public discourse and help build this country wherever we are. We shouldn't be quiet when something is going wrong, because at the end, we will be the ones that suffer if the country is not able to, be stable.
All right. Thank you very, very much, Dr. Kojo Pumpuni Asante, Project Manager of Corruption Watch. And thank you also, Lindo Forikafo, who is the Executive Director of Ghana Integrity Initiative. Well, Fred Esiama is here. Actually, he'll be joining us. But we'll go for some few messages. Fred will be telling us about the recommendation from the Judicial Council and also help take us through a recall of some of the cases of 2020. We'll be right back.
Hello, my name is Eric Fanchini, Managing Director of Total Petroleum Ghana PLC. During this festive season, I want all drivers